Welcome to another episode of Make Mental Health Matter. Thank you so much for watching. If this happens to be your very first time, thank you so much for joining us. If it's your 20th millionth, okay, not a million because I haven't had that many shows yet, but thank you for coming back. No matter how many times you have watched, I'm sure you have noticed that a lot of my guests that come on have stories to tell, whether they are experts in the mental health space, they are advocates of mental health, or they have lived experience. And as we know, in this thing that we call life, we all can experience a challenge at one point in time in our lives, whether that looks like depression, anxiety, maybe a diagnosis, substance use, whatever it may be. Or maybe you are a business owner and you need to get some connections to help with whatever challenge you are going through in your business, in your personal life, whatever that may be. Connection and community are two things that science has found to help people move through whatever challenge they are experiencing. And I am excited with my guest for today because he is all about connection, building relationships. And if you are somebody that's out there that might be struggling, you know how important it is to have somebody by your side or somebody that you can connect with, whether they understand what you are experiencing or not. It's really nice to know that you're not alone and that you can make authentic connections with people. Again, whether it is on a personal level or if it's in a business setting or whatever that setting may be for you, connections are really important. And what I love about this show is that a lot of my guests actually have really become a part of my community. They have become a part of our family of community. And we go on to share and collaborate on higher levels, which one of my guests today also is a host on E360 TV. And it's exciting to have this collaboration and be able to go have him on my show and go on his show. So without stringing this along even farther, I am going to introduce a little bit about my guest for today. So, Steve Ramona, he is a unique super connector and he specializes in building partnerships through his personalized introductions. These introductions are emails and include video explanations, adding a personal touch to each connection. Steve's introductions have been incredibly successful, resulting in $25 million in deals over the past 11 years. This track record speaks volumes about the value he brings to each connection. So, like I said, he has his own show and podcast. The podcast is called Doing Business with a Servant Heart, and it has an audience of over 40,000 people per episode. And then his show is called Together We Serve, which has 1.2 million audience monthly. So he really showcases mostly CEOs, founders, presidents, and entrepreneurs with incredible stories. But he really helps these great people partner and be introduced to partnerships through these shows. So I'm excited. Let me bring him up. Steve, thank you so much for joining me.
Back at you. Thank you for having me on. What you're doing here on this TV show is what's needed today. Who knows 10 years from now, but with COVID and everything that's happened, I've seen the change you've made with this TV show. And, the people you're affecting is powerful.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. And I know you and I, we had a chance to go and meet in person recently. And that was so fun to be able to connect on, in person versus just in a box. But I would love for you to tell the audience a little bit more about you and your story, other than what I just shared.
Well, thank you. The start of the podcast, October 2022, and I learned this power of networking at 18 when my family started a health club and I worked the front desk during summer and I ended up staying there 22 years. But I built a massive network of, people coming in 3 times a week to work out. What am I going to do? Hey, hey, Melissa. Hey, Joanne. Hey, John. I'm going to build relationships. And I was doing it naturally. I didn't realize it until people started bringing me resources. Keep in mind, I'm 18. These are 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds that are working out. They're not my peers, are way above me, but they asked me out for lunch. I saw them at dinner. I would, sit down with them when I had a break or whatever it may be, or have conversations with them. I developed so much. I get emotional when I talk about this. So many great people just by serving and listening. It's simple to say, simple task, but the action's the key. Anybody can do it. And what I found is you take your network that you're building today, your next opportunity goes with you. You said it so well at the beginning of your monologue, community. Mental health needs a community and it's growing. Part of it is because of this great show that you have. But I've been very fortunate and unfortunate in some of the stories on my podcast that have been blowing me out of the water. Now, people go, "You've never really dealt with mental health," and I haven't. But recently, I have dealt with somebody died by suicide. And my guests I've actually reached out to a couple of them to talk to them. How do I deal with this? Again, it's back to community, Kelly. I love that you said that because it's helped me personally. Now, before that, did I deal with it? No. And the audience out there, if you haven't dealt with mental health, that's why you want to learn about it. So you can help others and serve others.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry to hear that you have lost somebody. It's definitely not an experience that is fun by any means. It really sucks, but it also, I think it's important to have these conversations of knowing somebody in our lives that has been affected or died by suicide, because we don't talk about it enough, but also showing that people are not alone. So yeah, I think that I mean, spot on with having that community. I never knew how important it really was until I jumped into my nonprofit full time. And I feel like I've been networking and building community. Like that's my whole entire life, which is incredible because you never know who you're going to come in contact with that is going to just shift or change the whole dynamic of everything that's happening in your life. And I love that community has helped you in all the things that you do too. And you've really embraced that. That's amazing.
Thank you very much. And I'll tell you, something happened last week, so our timing of this show is amazing. I had a guest on my show, RJ. He committed a very bad act. He was put in jail, one of the worst you can do. And he's written a book, God Doesn't Waste a Thing. But as I told you, I was going to Denver for the event we talked about. And they didn't realize, and this is the power of community, audience. This is an incredible story. It's going to probably make me cry. So I was sitting for lunch with some of these ladies, and I realized, hey, RJ's in Denver. I'm going to reach out because I'm available for dinner. Like you said, we've been in this box. That's all we've talked is this box. Great conversations. And he says, oh, I'm available. Well, if it's the God or whatever, spirit, universe, whatever, he's driving in. He comes in. He's got teared up a little bit. And he sat down. We're having dinner. He goes, Steve, you don't know what just happened. I said, tell me. He goes, you know where you're staying? You didn't know this? 5 minutes away is where I tried to die by suicide and where I went to prison for the first time. I've never been here in 20 years. Then he says, would you like to go through the journey with me? I stopped for a minute, getting goosebumps right now. And I said, you know what? If that'll help you, if you're okay. He said, no, I want you to be there with me. We literally took the car and drove through his journey. He went to Walmart to buy a black sweatshirt. The track he actually laid down on, that the train missed him. It was a 1,000,001 shot because his dad was a train conductor. He knew exactly how the train works. But my thought, and whoever thought, God said, today's not your day. We parked in a parking lot where his girlfriend at the time, when he went to jail for the first time, parked. And I got a picture of a little tiny window he's looking through. She can see him and she's flashing her lights and they're both crying and bawling because of the emotion of him being in prison. I went through that whole emotion with him. Here's our community is powerful. He called me texted me the next day. He goes, that was the best thing you could have done for me. And I made the decision to go, yes, go out of my comfort zone and let's do this. And that's the power of community. That's the power of mental health to get him, RJ, to move forward in his life even more.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know it gave me goosebumps as you were talking about that. It's crazy. Being able to okay, so a lot of thoughts just went through my head, which often happens. But just the power of having somebody experience and go through that journey with you. And sometimes it's very healing for people to relive or go through that journey again, but also having somebody there that's not judging them, not worried about like where the story goes, where the journey goes, and just see, I'm getting goosebumps again. Just being able to like go through that experience and the power of saying yes. Like, I'm not really that comfortable of doing this, but I'm gonna do it. And you did. And gosh, oh my gosh, that's so powerful. And whatever how it aligned is just incredible too.
And to add to the story, as you're talking, you're such a great host. I love you. He tells me as we're pulling back in the hotel to drop me off, he goes, none of my family will go through this journey with me. I think his fiance at the time probably would have, it's just timing, but he said, you did. And we're not blaming the parents or his brother. I mean, they're just not comfortable. I completely understood. But again, I took the action and said yes, because it was comfortable for me. And here's where growth happens. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have done it. I'd be scared S-less to do that. Like, what do I say? Do I say the right thing? I just let my heart and my soul lead the way. And it was such an experience I'll never forget. I've got the pictures to never forget. But that's what we can do with people. Because I get, again, the other question is, well, Steve, you've never been through mental health. How do you help? Well, that's a perfect story to tell you how you can.
Yeah. I mean, so I kind of reflect back on my journey versus the rest of my family's journey. And mine has been very different with the loss of my sister because I talk about it all the time. Like, this is what I do as a profession. And I have to remind myself that my whole family is not where I am with my journey and my experience. And it took a long time. Even, I mean, my little sister helped me with some of our marketing, and we had to have that conversation of, hey, you're going to be talking about our sister a lot, and you need to know like what you're going to be doing. And she's like, no, I know. That's why it's taken me this long to ask to even help, because I wasn't there. Right. So we experience, and that's something that I talk about all the time, is we experience things differently. You and I can be in the same exact experience and we'd have different experiences, but having somebody go through that journey, but then also honoring that people are in different spaces and they may not feel comfortable at that time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be at a later time. So I think that's important for people to hear, is that we all go through the journey of loss and grief and mental health challenges very differently. And it's okay if maybe you're not in that place right now. You might get to it at a later time, but it is also very cool and important to have somebody that can go through that journey with you, that's willing, because that makes that connection so much stronger. So
yeah. And I used this story when I was in the health club. We had to learn CPR because, people are working out. It was just part of it. And this is 40 years ago. Yeah, God, it's been a long time. I'm an old guy. They would say, they teach you the compressions and everything, but they would say some people can do compressions, some people freak out, but you call 911. Same thing with mental health that I'm learning, and you're teaching me and others, is if you can't say the right thing, just be quiet and let them lead you. You're still helping. Don't feel guilty and I used to feel this way years ago, I don't know the right thing to say. Sometimes saying nothing is the best thing, or just ask a question. How can I support you today?
Yeah. Yes.
And you're calling 911 instead of doing the CPR. So it's such a great synergy of how to feel. You can always help in so many ways. And of course, you get the person that tries to call 911 and does CPR at the same time. We don't want to do that with mental health. Just kind of find your, as I say, lane that works best for that person. Because you're right. Every person with mental health has a different route. Some people want to be talked to. Some people just want you to listen. Some people want you to take action. They'll tell you eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love that you said that. I mean, silence is the most powerful tool that you can have in your tool belt, because sometimes that's just what people need to be able to process their emotions and their experiences. And sometimes just sitting there saying nothing can be so powerful and healing. We don't need, I say this so often, is that we don't need to be fixed. We're not broken. We just maybe are fractured at times, and we need to be able to go through the healing process to move through whatever journey we're experiencing. And having somebody that can just hold that safe space for you is so powerful. And I want to also, so we're going to go to a quick sponsored break, but when we get back, I also want to talk about like what you're doing now that really helps with this community and collaboration. So we'll talk about that when we get back from this quick sponsored break.
Hello, this is Steve Ramona with the TV show Together We Serve, Fridays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on E360 TV. Together We Serve.
I'm Dr. Audrey Tang, a chartered psychologist, and on my show Mental Health Matters, we take a deep dive into all things mental health and well-being with the experts. So join us at 8 a.m. PST on Thursdays on the Fresh Takes channel, because Mental Health Matters on E360 TV.
And we're back. Not to get confused with the Mental Health Matters and the Make Mental Health Matter show, but
Great.
It's important to showcase both.
And I gotta highlight your video really quick. I'm blown away by those statistics, and I want the audience to remember to think about those. Every 40 seconds, somebody is dying by suicide. That's got to change. Not tomorrow, today.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I was just talking to somebody earlier today about some of the statistics, because we have a whole bunch on our website that you can go and look at. And in Colorado, talking about, you were just in Colorado, but suicide is the first leading cause of death for ages 10 to 12 or 10 to 14. And that's just, I mean, it's getting better on that aspect, just not statistically changing anything. But I mean, last year, just based off of the CDC, it's about 125 Americans that are dying by suicide every single day. And it's just getting higher and higher. So I think that this is like part of the conversation is, how do we change this narrative? How do we make people not feel so alone, but also be able to ask for help? And they have, again, scientifically proven that community connection are those two things that really can truly save lives, in addition to being able to understand how we can help people. So that's why I love these conversations.
They're great. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I want to talk about what you do specifically, because I know that you have the podcast, you also have your show, and you really talk about leading with a servant heart. And I know you and I had conversations about this at Hostopia. So I would love for you to share more about, like, what does that mean, leading with a servant heart?
Shut up and listen. I tell people, and the image I use that seems to resonate with everybody is all these Zoom meetings we're on with all the boxes. We do that with our mastermind when the screen goes black. Okay, they've muted and shut up. Are they listening? Or the person that's turned away or is looking down or is not really paying attention, are they listening? A lot of us will shut up, even when it comes to mental health talking to, you shut up, but are you really listening what the person's telling you? They may be saying, hey, I need to go for a walk, and you're not listening, and they're like waiting for an answer. This also allows you to understand the person. I can build so many relationships by shut up and listening and learning pain points, desires, passions, how I can help. I'm called a super connector, and one of the superpowers I have is because I shut up and listen, and then I ask, oh, Kelli, I hear you're saying you need to find somebody for an event that's in mental health. As soon as I hear mental health, I've got this guy, and this girl. You think of keywords in your mind that you can bring value. Value is the key. A servant heart, what do? They're going to bring value to everybody they meet in their business and their life. It's so powerful that here's just something about serving that's going to blow you away. I don't know if I told you this story, but I'm going to share it because it's so powerful. I met Katie about 9 weeks ago, and same thing. She talked about her business. I said, hey, I've got these 3 people you need to meet. I think they would be great to move you forward, da. So weeks go by, and I get this email, because when you do an email introduction, you're in the thread. Well, it's weeks later, and a little tip, audience, when you do an introduction or you get one, respond within 48 hours, because the energy starts diminishing and that value starts diminishing a little bit. I know things happen, and that's what happened here. So email came back from Katie that said, hey, I'm having some problems with my disabled special needs child. I've been dealing with that, but I would love to connect. 48 hours later, I get an email from Katie. It's so amazing. It's just the power of value. She goes, I'm speechless, but I'm typing this, LOL. You did these 3 introductions to help my business, and I really appreciate it, but you did much more for my family. I have an 8-year-old disabled, which I didn't know, and these 3 people gave me resources to help me that I've been looking for 8 years. We've struggled, and it's hurt our family to try to figure out how to deal with him, money, grants, and all this. She goes, those 3 people, within hours, I'm moving on, and our life looks so much better. I can't thank you enough. Yeah, I did something of action of introducing. But like with mental health, you don't know what shoes they're sitting in. But take action and be present and shut up and listen. And we just met last week, and it was one of those beautiful meetings. I helped her even more, and she's like, you're just amazing. I said, no, you're amazing because you're a mother of a disabled child. You found some resources, but you're living it. I'm not. And again, turning that around and always bringing value. So you never know what value you bring into people. And a lot of times I'm not hearing it. I know it's happening in more situations. But this is what a servant heart does. They give with no scoreboard. But always ask, because that's the third component of this. Hey, you might go, Kelli, how can I support you? Yeah, I'm looking for some guests. I got this guy for you. Finish that infinity loop, which is the sideways 8. Giving. If you don't receive back, you've turned them into takers. And then a servant heart gets diminished. It gets smaller. And I had to learn that. I wasn't doing that for 10 years. But the last year and a half, when I met a guy who made lots of millions of dollars serving, but receiving as well, asking, he'd do something, and he'd ask, hey, can you help me here? Can you help me here? $250 million he made 1 year doing that. That's a high-end company, and not all of us are going to do that, but it's the focus of the action that he took. And now with mental health, talking about your TV show, value. What kind of value can you bring? I mean, Jeff Johnstone lost his son at 17 from fentanyl poisoning. Wife died a year later from alcoholism. Was 3 seconds away with a shotgun to his chin and to me it was God that pulled it away. RJ, I told you his story. Another gentleman, Todd Blyleven, dove into the Vegas shootings where the sniper was shooting, killing people. He took his family away for 8 hours. He ran into the area where the concert was and bullets were flying by him. He saved 100 people. 5 people died in his arms. He got PTSD bad, where he was on that path of dying by suicide, found somebody in his community reached out through his dad, who's a Hall of Fame baseball player, and said, I've been through this in the war. Let me walk you through it. Those stories tell you what you're doing, Kelli, and what can happen with the community. I'm seeing it everywhere, and we need to do more of it because those statistics have to change fast.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, again, for sharing all of those stories, because so there's a couple things that pop into my head, and the connections that you're making, right? It's like these warm connections. It's these trusted connections that are going to help make an impact, but it's not just sending somebody to a website and being like, okay, good luck, right? It's like, hey, I authentically am listening to you, and I'm going to give you a warm connection. And I am bad about responding to people. I feel horrible about it because we have so much going on lately, but I honestly am taking that to heart because it is important. You don't know where they're at, right? Like all the ads that you get in emails, right? It starts to like stack up on top of the important emails. And so there is a time and place that we just let those go and we focus on the ones that need those warm connections. And I know right now, like our organization is building what we're calling a trusted resource hub, because it's that warm, authentic connection. It's not just, hey, go check out this website. It's like, I have a personal connection with this person. I'm going to refer you, Steve, to Alex or whom, right? Like I'm going to get you connected directly to them because I know that they're going to be helpful and not hurtful. And they may be able to set you on a direction that you've been looking for 8 years. Like, it's so amazing how we can start to connect ourselves and connect other people and make sure that it's that authentic, warm connection versus just, hey, here's their information, go figure it out. So I love that you do it that way, and it's helped impact lives through whatever they're experiencing. And then I was also thinking, I'm like, man, I had another thought that was in there and it kind of went away, but yeah, it'll come back. So, but I think that it's just like what I'm hearing from you is how we can best serve people is by truly listening. And that can be challenging as life goes along. But when we can make that time, that focus, and bring that energy into the safe space that we're creating for people, that opens up so much more possibility, like those that do this on a daily basis, right? Oh, that's where I have the thought come back.
There it is.
The receiving, it was all about the receiving, which you talked about. So I am also, or in the past, it has been hard for me to receive because I'm very much a caregiver. I like helping, I like giving, and I was giving, but there was nothing left for me towards the end. And I really, truly believe that that's where my sister was that she gave, and there was nothing left for her. And she chose to, unfortunately, take her life. But what we can do is we learn how to receive. And I know that can be hard, or possibly it may be, we can make it easy, but receiving is part of the equation. In order to give more, we must learn how to receive. And so I love that you pointed that out because it has been something that I personally have been working on much more over the past year because I cannot give unless I receive. So I love that you mentioned that too.
No, and I'm glad I got a couple good tips, and thank you, because that was my problem as well. And I'm going to share, not saying anything, but share a story of your sister, because that's true. And we turn people into takers. But here's a tip to receive. Have something ready for somebody. Because that was part of my problem too, was how can I help you? I really didn't need any help because I couldn't think of anything I needed. Well, now I do. I'm looking for a podcast guest or a TV show guest. This is what I'm looking for. And audience, your conversations are going to uplift. I've noticed the last year the difference in the conversations. Now it's, I don't like tit for tat, but it's like going back and forth. And do not use the scoreboard. Don't think if they give you 3 referrals, you got to, ask for 3 referrals or vice versa. It's what's in your heart. It's the action of giving and receiving. That's the important thing. Where the universe goes, Kelli, you're a beautiful person, which you are. I'm going to, and you don't know how, when, or where. Keep that in mind. That's the big thing. This is not like me giving you $100 to be a guest on this show. Not that I did that, but that's tangible. We can go, oh my God, I was on a show and this happened, or the ROI on the show. When it comes to serving and giving and receiving, we just don't know. But I met a billionaire 2 months ago who called me out of the blue. Saw the podcast. I know it's because I did such good before that the door opened. And here's the other thing. I did such good, I take every call now unless it's spam. 2 years ago, I never would have answered the call. Audience and Kelli, think about, I could have missed out on thousands of dollars first, but 2, he's feeding them children across the world. He's already fed 250,000. He wants to do $1 million. Now I can be part of that social good. So learning to be acceptable to everything that's happening, because and here's another great tip. It's an opportunity door. What do doors do? They open and close, open and close. Walk in the door, you walk up. They're not a wall. Once you walk in, a wall doesn't fill in and you go, you're stuck there. You can walk into an opportunity and just say, no, it's not for me. By the way, that's a servant's heart, because you're helping yourself, but you're helping the person they're not going to be able to be helped by you or supported by you. And then a last tip with your email. Here's a great tip. If you get a ton of those emails, ads, and all that, just check them all and make a folder ads and throw them in there. 2 minutes, and then find the powerful emails that you need to attend to. That's revenue generating opportunities, not the ad for buying another Amex card or whatever, or whatever it is. Get rid of those, because a cluttered box is a cluttered mind, which means, like, my wife has 30,000 emails she hasn't read. Now, most of them are probably ads, and she's not in business, so she doesn't really need them. I need to. And you people out there that know you run your business through your email, and you kind of should. I make a lot of money through my email. So that's a little tip that they can use to see if it'll help them.
Yeah, I started actually, so I created a new email for my show specifically, and then for my classes specifically, and I'm kind of like trying to move things around. I know that seems very odd to have 20 million emails, but for me, it makes sense, so that I'm kind of like funneling, since I kind of do a lot of everything in the nonprofit. Instead of going to one box, I can kind of have them separate. So I make sure that I never miss anything. But yeah, great tip is, and I love, I used to do that actually when I was in the corporate. I'd have them just go to like specific folders. So that's a great tip too.
Well, and that's a great point too. You work with a bunch of emails. I can't. I have to get rid of emails, and it doesn't. And there's no one all be all with all this entrepreneurship. Just that's where, again, we're going to go back to community. That's where community. You talk to this one person, I can't really. Oh, Kelli does it this. I could do it like Kelli. Just take an input and advice from people and see what fits you. Never have anybody tell you the only way to do CRMs is this way. The only way to do emails is this way. They're just suggestions.
Yeah. No, I love good tips. So
yeah, got a lot of them.
Yeah, right. So we're gonna go to our last quick sponsored break, but once we get back here, we're gonna talk a little bit more about how people can find you, and then anything else that we didn't chat about. So we'll be right back after this break. I lost my middle sister, Carrie, to a completed suicide on February 20th, 2017.
My story, however, it isn't unique. I am a domestic violence survivor and a recovering addict. For 14 years, I was in active addiction, and because of Kelli and the work that she does and the opportunity to have my voice heard, I was able to stay clean and sober and have hit a year. I'm still here, and if it wasn't for Kelli answering my call the day that I thought I was going to take my life.
Curious, and I know that I've heard a lot in the BIPOC community, it is very hush hush. It's like one of those things that you don't talk about. Like, you literally feel like it's not a conversation you can have. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
First, shout out to Kelli, because I'm glad that she asked the question. I researched you before I went on your show, and I saw how real and authentic you were. And I just appreciate the question, because it is different, and we have to have tough, courageous conversations. So yes, I always say I'm a triple diversity threat. I'm a Black woman with multiple disabilities. Now, I'm not really a threat, but to other people, I may be, because people fear the unknown and what they're uncomfortable with.
Kelli's passionate commitment to mental health awareness is a beautiful thing. It's clear in her social media posts, it's clear in the resources that she puts together, in the activities that she provides, her collaboration with organizations, and the consistent way that she continues to deliver a message encouraging people to understand that they can share openly and to break the stigma around mental health. Kelli's topics cover children and adults, talk about things that we can do as a community, things that we can do individually, and her website is packed with information and resources and all kinds of contacts that you can use to reach out, whether you're dealing with something yourself or you're looking to help somebody else who is struggling. I encourage you to check it out.
We're back again.
That is, I've got a tear in my eye seeing your sister, and there's a lot of shows out there that are good, but this is just at the next level, because especially after COVID. And I'm thinking as I'm watching, my wife works at Trader Joe's, which I think they're everywhere. I think they're in Denver as well. And she was having people come in February. Well, it's June now, even March, coming to Trader Joe's for the first time, leaving their house.
Wow.
What? It's 2 years later, 2.5 years. These, and it's usually the senior citizens because they're scared, understandable, but that does not build community. People living alone, and we learned that with COVID. So this is needed more than people.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely, I I love that video, or the sponsored break. I created it, but I also just love like re-seeing it, and because it reminds me, the impact that you can make. And like I said earlier in the intro, is that a lot of my guests have become part of my community, my family of community, right? It's not just them coming on the show and we never talk again. I have built so many collaborations and community around what this show is all about, which is really cool, because when I look back or think back, it was like an idea that somebody said, hey, you should do a show. And I'm like, are you bonkers? Like, at that moment, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, yeah, why not? And I started it, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then just keeps going. And now on E360 and on Dream Vision 7 Radio. And it's so important to be able to share people's stories and experiences and ask the hard conversations or questions that nobody wants to ask, that maybe people are afraid to ask. But like you even said earlier, is sometimes just asking a question can be very impactful in somebody's life. And you may not know how to respond. You may not know what question that is, but I'm pretty sure if you ask and you're really actually curious, that will help that person feel a little less alone, which is the whole goal. So
yeah, it's interesting. I tell introverts, you're the best business people in the world. They're like, no, we're not. We're quiet. No, because I give them 3 questions. What is your, when they're talking to people, what is your goal? What do you do? How long have you been doing it? And audience, you can write that down, listen to this over and over again. An entrepreneur, an introvert will ask that, what do you do? And just because they're going to shut up and listen. And I'm not an introvert, so I really had to learn it, but it's so powerful what you can learn from people. People want to talk about themselves. That's a compliment. You're passionate about suicide and your history and your legacy. And that's the thing I tell people too. What's your legacy? My really good business partner and friend, Max Lambright, said on my show, think about movies. We just went and saw If last night. By the way, if you haven't seen it, it's one of the cutest movies. Loved it. Probably only me and my wife are the only adults there without kids. And people are like looking at us. And I loved it. But what's the end of the movie is the credits. And we like to look and see where it was filmed or whatever it may be. Audience, I want you to think about, what are your credits going to look like when you pass? That is your legacy. You're leaving, Kelli, a beautiful legacy. But what about your sister's legacy? You're carrying it on. Yeah, it's a traumatic, catastrophic event that happened. But you and your sister now are taking that and moving it on. That's what I teach people with a servant's heart, with building relationships. You know, I walked into an event and people are grabbing me. You got to meet Steve. You got to meet Steve. You got to meet Steve. Felt like a rock star. But here's the cool thing. You all can do it. They just remember me because I'm always bringing value. I'm always right away. I mean, right now I have a referral for you. As we're doing this show, I'm going to do an introduction for you for your show. And I think somebody you need to meet. Yeah. That's how I think. But you've got to practice that, like gratitude, gratefulness, all that helps with mental health. You got to practice the serving side too.
Yeah. I think, and so I want to just recap a little bit of what you said too, just for anybody listening in the audience and knowing my personal experience, because networking was not a thing that I used to do. I was in a corporate job and I didn't have to network, right? But once I jumped in to my nonprofit full time, that's really all I've been doing. But the networking part is, even the conversation I had this morning, my brain starts going in so many different ways, like, oh my gosh, you need to meet so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. My challenge with that is that I'm very much a pen to paper person, but now I have a whole stack of pen to paper. Like I have tons of paper and like, it's just ridiculous. And I'm like, oh shoot, I should have sent this or sent that. So I am honestly taking like the 48-hour challenge, I'm going to call it that, is that I take that paper and then I do something with it within 48 hours, in addition to the emails that I'm getting, because we don't know. And what you said like stuck in my brain, because we don't know where they're at this moment. And it may be that 48-hour window, at least in my world, right? Like I work with people that are struggling. So in my area is that I don't know if they will still be alive in 48 hours, right? Or beyond 48 hours. So it's important that we take action right away. So I appreciate you saying that. And I have people now surrounding me, and I'm lucky enough to be building this, what I'm calling my empire and my legacy, to be able to have other people help me in this space so that I'm not doing it all alone myself. And so, yeah, that connection and community is such a big thing. So I would love for you to share how, like, I know you're looking for guests for your podcast and your show, but how else, like, can we help you in building your legacy and your empire?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. And doing business with a servant's heart, subscribe, especially mental health, Make Mental Health Matter TV show. We're really connected because I think probably 30% of my guests have dealt with mental health. Another quick story. Scott Fedor jumped into a lake in his 20s, going to be a financial advisor. He's been to that family lake for many years, jumped in a lake, hit his head in the bottom of the lake, broke his neck. He had a 0.0001 chance of surviving. They say be emotional on TV. It's okay. The dog, family dog, which wasn't his dog, would always run down. So, as always, the dog ran down. and I love dogs, and if you're dog lovers, you'll get this. It knew intuitively that he didn't come up, so it starts barking really loud. The family hears it. They run down and realize where's Scott, and they jump in and save him. 0.001% chance. Community of family. Lost everything, family and everything. He's a quadriplegic, but he's out speaking and an advocate for people disabled. So 2 things. One, if you're disabled and your story with the wonderful young lady on your little break there is unbelievable, we could still do things. Here's the second thing that Kelli, this host, is so incredible. She talked about her TV show. Didn't know anything about it. I was the same way. We all started at zero. Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, and think about Tom Brady, who just got in the Hall of Fame if you're a sports fan. They started at zero. He started at 5 years old throwing a football. He actually grew up in my area. We all started zero. Think about that. You're not alone. There's always an opportunity to start a TV show, build $1 million brand, build a huge community, whatever it may be. But find community, a book club, a church, a TV show host, whatever that may be. Please find a community because your mental health will so do well. And reach out to me or reach out to Kelli. Let's help you find a community. And I know that's what you're doing. And it's a powerful tool. And it's simple once you know which way to go. If you don't know which way to go, you're spinning. And that's where all this bad stuff starts happening, as you know.
Yeah. And where's the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I forget that because I get it on monologue. I apologize. LinkedIn, I'm on there all the time. Steve Ramona, use my name. Servinginbusinesspodcast.com. You can see all my different, look at that. She jumped on there. I have a digital business card, infone.co/podcast or inphone.co/podcast. I'd love to connect with you, help you, connect you with people in my network and see how I can help you grow, bring value.
Amazing. And I'm going to add this just for a second too. There is his digital card. Steve, this was great. I'm so glad that we had a chance to bring you on the show, and this conversation was amazing. So thank you so much for being an incredible guest.
God bless you for what you're doing, Kelli. I'm going to support you as much as I can.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, y'all, that was another amazing episode of Make Mental Health Matter. If you didn't get everything that we picked up, the great thing is you can go back and listen or watch again. But I just want to follow up with a couple things. So it has actually been scientifically proven that community and connection are 2 things that can truly help save lives. And it may be scary at first to get out of your house. It may be scary to ask for help. It might be a time that you're like, I don't have time to go hang out with so-and-so or go to dinner with so-and-so or coffee or whatever it might be. Or maybe I'm just buried in emails and I don't know where to start, or I want to start a show or a podcast and I have no idea what I'm doing. That's okay. Take small steps every single day. Take a small step. Maybe it's 1 step out of your house today, and tomorrow it's 2, and the next day it's 3, and the next day it's 4, and the next day you're driving down the street and maybe you end up in that space that you're about to get coffee and you drive away. But then the next time you go into the place and have coffee with whomever you're meeting. It can be simple. It can be small steps that we take every single day. Like I said, I'm going to take the 48-hour challenge. I'm making my own challenge, but the 48-hour challenge, and make sure that I'm following up. There's a lot on my plate right now, which is amazing, but being able to make those connections are really, really important, because you never know whose life you might just change or shift or transition. And that 48 hours may make that difference. So no matter what you do, make sure you come back next Monday. You can listen or watch. It's at 5 p.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV, or you can listen on Dream Vision 7 Radio at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. by simply saying, Alexa, play Dream Vision 7 Radio. No matter what you do, I will see you next week. Have a great day. Bye, y'all.